Welcome to a new episode of our podcast, Lead the Future and Change the Conversation. An honest, unedited conversation to create the future. I'm your host, Arjan Visser, and today I chat with my dear friend Benj Street on leadership, self-leadership, future, peers, and also about the new book that I've just finished, released. But before we talk about that, I just want to let you know a little bit more about Benj, because I got to know him as not just a leadership and innovation accelerator, but actually as a true friend that has deeply impact on me. The way he pioneers with businesses to embrace the emerging future and actually translate that to motivate me, push me higher, and has this unlimited belief. I can only say thank you. So on that emotional note, I actually want to start our conversation, Benj. So wipe away the tears. And how are you? And thank you for joining again.
I'm doing very well, and thank you for the kind introduction and for having me back on the podcast. I love coming on. I think every conversation, some of what you've said is definitely mutual, and speaks to what I truly believe, that we need each other. The journey of self-leadership from the inside out is not something that can be done alone. The history just tells us, that people who try to do these things alone spectacularly fail. So, in the spirit of appreciation, thank you for all your pushing and acceleration and growth. And so inspired and excited that you published this book and that I got to be one of your early readers of it, and that we get to talk about it. And I have huge expectations of how it will impact people, way beyond you, your small town in the south of Holland. It's got the potential for global impact and global reach to the highest echelons of our world. Because there's stuff in there that nobody else is talking about. And, it's an inspiration to people to start talking about it and start thinking some of these things.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So what stood out for you? Just pick one.
How long is the list? One of the things that was interesting, like genuinely, that's a very difficult question, because there are so many nuggets in there, and I think I've read it 2 or 3 times already, and I know I need to read it again, and I can't wait for the workbook to come out so that I can.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. But so that I can systematically go through and scribble and use it and reuse it. But there's a bit in the middle, in step 4 of your 7 steps, which is about who's around you, your relationships, your circle, and there's a chart in there which you've given as a tool to help map out relationships. And I think fascinating to me, because I've read lots of leadership stuff, and I've had lots of conversations with other people who've read so-called leadership books and then tried to put them into practice. And one of the things that people often talk about is, well, you have to surround yourself with, the right kind of people and ditch other people. And I've sat on the receiving end for somebody, in the past, who said, well, sorry, I don't have time for you because you're not strategic to me. And with no further explanation than that. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. But I sense, and like what I'd love to kind of hear you unpack a little bit more about the tool that you have and how you how you see it being different. Yeah, that's
Yeah. Well, it plots your relationship, maps your relationships that you currently are aware of, and but also creates this space for relationships that are currently missing. So and helps you actually to start anticipating for them to arise and be part of your future. So in the futurizing process in general, when we talk about where to do I want to go, my preferred future, then that's where your future identity arrives. It changed through the journey, but there are also travel companions that you, well, connected with during your journey. um, um, I could also be old friends you would never expect to be with you at the end. Um, so by creating a mapping with a bit of a rigid structure, like there are two dimensions to what one dimension is the growth, which is all about who accelerates you versus who holds you back. Um, I start doing that with my resume. Just what are the expertises I had that's connected to certain relationships that want to keep making use of my services in that expertise area, and knowing that I have to maybe let go that expertise because I want to develop into who I'm called to be and where I want to go. I have to let go that relationship and also stop actually cultivating, nurturing that relationship, because simply it's not fair to them. I don't want to stay in that place, and it's not helping me for the same reason. But that's quite cruel, and that feels a bit like the ditching of relationships. But when I imagined the tool, it was two ends. Like I have an inner circle with a limited set of seats. I don't want the seat to be occupied by someone who is not served by me and is not serving me. So it's a release. It's not a ditching, it's a release, which probably will be a surprise for the other person. So their experience will probably be opposite. At the other end, I probably want other people to invite in my inner circle, speak into my life, give me feedback, encourage me, accelerate me. And they deserve a seat, you know. Can't keep them standing around the table in that picture. And yeah, that's actually where it started, because there are so many messages about, you have to ditch relationships which are slowing you down, which has a truth in it, but not without the other part of it. You need to find new relationships who will accelerate you, and there is a mutual benefit for both to travel together. And I think it's the sum of those two things, or more than the sum of those two, that gives the insight of where to focus your energy, and receive the acceleration.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was thinking about as well when I saw it was how you do. So it's one thing doing a static map of either what you want your current relationships to look like, or what you want your future relationships to look like. But I think the interesting bit to me is, how do you move from one to the other?
Yeah.
And actually, I like the way that you call it, mapping, because the first thing that comes in my head when I think of mapping, maybe I'm a kid brain, but is a pirate treasure map. X marks the spot, and you need to go through these, but I'm here and I want to go there. So how does the map lead me through that? So I think, yeah, yeah, the The
Yeah, I love
diagram
that
itself
perspective. Well,
intrigued me into of the relation, even of the relationships I have.
yeah,
Maybe the mapping process identifies gaps, but of the relationships I have, well, maybe some of them aren't sitting quite in the right space, or how could I walk through this relationship to see it becoming more of an accelerant to me?
yeah.
um
Yeah, I like that perspective. So keep me accountable. That needs to be in the workbook too, because a map's purpose is not to just do an inventory classification exercise. A map is actually to navigate, and um, and I just like what one of the examples would be like we meet and find out. So there is a spot where we meet on the map, and we
yeah,
find out that we both want to travel south.
yeah,
You know, Southern Europe. You know, not going south, but Southern Europe. You know, then we can find out that we can travel all the way to 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 nearly the end of the Alps before we separate our ways and go to our own destinations. And recognizing that it's beneficial and fun and accelerating to travel for a long uh, stage together
yeah,
is equally valuable as recognizing when we have to release each other.
yeah,
And I think that is the link between who do I need in the future to meet, who do I travel with to the future, and who am I not serving to drag them with me.
yeah,
And I think that journey, but then you need both people in, because you need both to fully own the investment that it is needed in the relationship to grow. So then on the map, you get these arrows, going from somewhere too much on the bottom in the middle to upper right corner. That's a very fascinating exercise. Um, we can't do that alone. That's what I know. But I say you want to do that with your business partner. You definitely want to do that with your spouse, because you don't want to create in your journey a fork in the road so that you have to let go each other. And at the other end, maybe that is the discussion that needs to happen, that there is a potential fork. How are we going to deal with it?
yeah, yeah. Part of the foresight thing
Part
is
of
if
the
you
foresight.
create the map. The thing that's coming to mind, hearing you talk about it as well, is actually almost to do this, you really need to be clear on your purpose.
Yeah.
Whether it's your total future identity purpose, or whether it's your business purpose, or the sub purposes that make up the whole of
Yeah.
why you exist. Thinking to some friend Ryan, some of his work and activity in helping people really map their purposes and overlap individual purpose to organizational purpose, how that then translates into the relationship between them.
Yeah.
Identifying if these people are on, who you have relationships with,
Yeah.
are going the same
Yeah.
direction. Do they want to go to Southern Europe in your example? What's the spark that draws you together and connects you for this season or the season ahead that you can anticipate, because some of it might not be currently fully evident. And then what's the map of where you need to change that relationship, or
Yeah, and that's also what I created on the map.
yeah,
Is you don't need to go all the way up to upper right. When it's about your future identity, then we talk about the relationships, shared purpose, mutual benefits, mutual growth, mutual investment, because you grow something together.
Yeah.
If it's only about your future perspective, then you need to be surrounded by people that are involved because they want the benefit too. If it's about your emerging authority, then you want people that stay connected with you, although you step up.
Yeah.
And then the corner of letting go those who hold you back, those people disconnect with you because you step up in your authority. And the hard lesson is that that involves grief, that involves a lot of pain and sadness, especially when it's not the business transaction, but it's about life. But if
Yeah.
we are really honest, it doesn't serve to stay connected if it has no mutual benefit for both. Then actually you keep each other locked down and hold each other back. And that needs a lot of maturity and wisdom and
Courage.
yeah, just you know, you need to make that step. You're dying, and then you're not serving the other as well if you're not living.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
it's good.
think that is the pain message, that you know, you enter a new stage of development. Like, life has stages. You enter a stage and you find out you need a new tribe. Some people are not served to stay with you,
Yeah.
so release them. Let them be happy in the previous state. Those people will respond to you as, why are you messing things up? We're having such a great time. Like, why are you changing the game rules? Like, game is fine. Well, that's an emotional response from them. Like, they are not ready to travel with you to the next stage. Maybe they'll travel with someone else to the next stage. Maybe not, but that's where disconnect is actually serving people.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, painful.
Mm.
It is a really, an exercise in the book that I try to introduce on a level one, and I don't know how many levels are in it. The feedback I got on the whole book is you write it on level one, but I found everywhere level 3, level 4, and I thought, oh, great that it echoes it, because that's about it, But you first have to be introduced, step in such a journey, and grow. And self-leadership, I mentioned that in another podcast. Self-leadership gives you your number one follower, but when it comes from the inside out, it influences those around you. Actually, that makes everyone a leader. Your choices, or the lack of your choices, will influence those in proximity. So
Yeah.
become more conscious about it. Start mapping it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hard graft, but worth the reward.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you still like the book?
Yeah.
You're processing something right now, so
No, 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 no. The first time I read the book, I was like, "This is brilliant. I need to do a lot more work," which is good because the best books that I've read are ones that I want to read again and again and wrestle over the sub points and go, actually, I'm challenged here. I need to take on board some of this. I need to do this, or maybe I need to reflect on my own thinking or do stuff. Effectively, they're not just. I like reading a whole range of books. Sometimes you read a book to relax, and other times you read a book to accelerate and motivate and be challenged. This is definitely one of those. It's an easy read and a very challenging implementation. And I think, yeah, I loved it. I loved reading it. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
You've struck that balance well, I think. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I know how I did that. I can't multiply. I have to find out. Yeah. No. Well, thank you. Thank you for just giving this feedback. And for those listening to the podcast, if there's anything in our conversation that triggered you, confused you maybe, or offended you, or just triggered you, then I tend to say, don't waste that trigger and connect. Just connect to Benj, connect to me. You can find us on LinkedIn. React to the podcast. I'll make sure the connection is set up, because don't ignore that trigger. I hate to talk about waste because that always talks about lack, but wasting triggers from the future, that's actually pretty sad because they're not rare, but in the busyness we tend to push them a little bit forward and forget, and that's just a missed opportunity. So if you're triggered, anything resonated, connect, and please get the book. There's a link, businessrevivalist.com/book, where you can get it. It's also available on Amazon. But I started the adventure to decide for yourself what's worth to pay for the book. So just get the book, use the link, and the link is also in the notes around the podcast. So I'm looking forward to hear more from you, how it processed, how it got effect on your life, and thank you in advance for that. Benj, thank you for today,
Thank you.
and
See you soon.
we keep continuing the journey together. You're on my map.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.